What is good, YouTube? A Squad 72, and today we have something a little bit different for the channel. We got a guest today, the man, the myth. I like saying that. I don't even know why I do that, but the man, the myth, Lynx Forte is in the building. Let him know what's going on.
I don't know why I'm a myth, man. Like, like when I met your girlfriend last week, you was just like, "Oh man, the man, the myth." I was like, "The myth." Like you
Yeah,
should just went the man, the legend, and I'm like, "Yeah, I could get behind the legend, but not the myth."
Cassie said the same thing. I was like, nah, you could have went legend. Nah, I just like saying the man, the myth. It feels right. But yeah, we are here today to talk about some Hunter or Hunter x Hunter, depending on I guess who you are and how you want to pronounce it. But we're talking about we're ranking the arcs within Hunter, and I guess are we going from least to best or best to least or
Yeah,
how
worst, I guess, least favorite to favorite,
least favorite to
however it
favorite?
needs to be worded. Yeah.
Okay, so that's the order we're going in. So
Oh wait, wait,
we'll
wait. Are we including that manga chapter?
um nah, I don't think
All right,
so.
all
Cause
right,
I'm not
cool,
even gonna, I
because
ain't gonna hold you. I didn't even finish it. I hadn't finished it yet.
I'm gonna be real with you. Like when I was reading it, I was like, no, this is incomplete.
Ah, okay. So yeah, we're not including the Dark Continent or New World arc. I mean, it was interchangeable, but we're not gonna point any fingers at anybody. So you wanna kick it off or
You can start it off.
all right? I started off. Well, from least since we're going from least to best arc, my least favorite arc was the chairman election arc, and it just I don't know, maybe I'm just a fan of like toxic masculinity and just people beating each other up all the time. That was not
You
present.
needed it.
Yeah,
You need somebody to get a face bashed in.
of course. Anime isn't
Um,
anime unless somebody's face gets bashed in.
what? But you
Yes.
had Hisoka chop Buddy's head off in the forest.
You right. And I loved every second of it, but it was so few and far in between. And granted, I love the fight. I love the fact that Butler number one, because I forgot his name. But
Okay. See, man, I told you open these tabs up.
listen, the thing about it is that he was dope with his quarters and his coins, but he just Soka's that guy, man. And it was cool, and I like the mental thought process behind the elite hunters. I thought that was really, really interesting, but as a whole, I was just like, man, I was more interested in the subplot of Gon getting healed up and Killua doing his thing. Because the actual election to me was it was kind of like, it was there, it was a main focal point, but at the same time, I'm like, I'm not here for this. I want to see what's going on with the MC. You know what I'm saying? Like, we need to
Gotcha.
figure out that. That's how I felt about it. What about you?
Gotcha. I mean, I enjoyed it. I mean, it even had your favorite part of the entire series in there
Of
when
course,
Leorio came in and punched Jean.
the main man himself, the most
Come on, man. So,
overpowered character
like,
in
even
the series.
like even with your favorite part in there, like you put it last.
I had to, man. I had to.
Oh no.
Yeah, because I
Well,
mean, like you said, Leorio punching Jing in the face was so rewarding. But I mean, like, I don't know, man. It was just we could have been doing anything else in the world, but nah, we focus on an election. And I was like, I'm tired of election. I watch anime to get away from like real life stuff, and here we are, a full blown election going on.
oh yeah, we probably should have put a big spoiler warning before we started this.
Oh yeah, you're right. But I feel
Oh
like if you
well,
hadn't watched it yet, because even I was late to this show. Like if you haven't
true.
watched it, then that's on you. But we'll put a spoiler tag up just to be safe.
Yeah. All right. I'll come back to this because I got it a little bit higher.
Oh,
But my least favorite was, and I'm gonna get some heat for this. We probably both gonna get some heat for our list. But I'm gonna put Greed Island at number 7.
what?
Yes, because my thing with Greed Island, we had just finished we came from the Heavens Arena, which was basically an entire training arc,
Okay.
and then you go to Yorknu, which you just had you went from Heavens Arena to Yorknu,
Hmm.
which was like a huge part in the story,
I'd agree.
and then you go back to like Greed Island. Like I guess it was like Greed Island as the arc, I guess didn't live up to the arc that came before, and maybe that's where I feel it hurt itself, because it was just in a sense a second training arc. You go training arc, huge point in the story, another training arc. Granted, Greed Island was where they learned to quote unquote master like nin abilities, and they learned their nin abilities. Gon got the Jajanken, which at this point in the story did not have a name, and then Killua, you started utilizing electricity, which was dope. But like the villains of it, the bombers, you and I talked about this the other day. Like they kind of broke their own rules, like with this game, because you're not supposed to be able to like kill people in this game, and yet the bombers are using nin to kill people.
Yeah, I'd agree with you on that. I thought that was weird as well.
Yeah, and it was just like the bombers themselves were not great villains. So, but Razor was an interesting, a very good but weird. What's the word I'm looking for? Like
addition, or just like
it was just like a stopping block, or just somebody in their way. I can't think of what that word is right now.
Yeah.
But like I enjoyed like that part of it. I can't remember what the pirates were called.
Yeah, I don't.
Sofrabi pirates. Yeah.
Yeah. Like he was a good hurdle for the group entirely.
Hurdle. That was the word I was looking for.
Yeah, because I mean, like he was a problem not only for our main characters but also for their antagonists, in which we rarely saw somebody give
the Phantom Trope the business, and just like real quick.
Yeah, I mean Phantom Trope and Hisoka, because I mean it was a joint effort to get past this guy.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. So I see what you're saying based off of the criteria, what the game should have stood for. But I'm just like, man, you got it as number 7. Like that's crazy.
I mean, I kind of had to. Like I actually changed my list like 5 minutes before we started.
Really?
And this ended up being at number 7 after it was all said and done.
Wow. Really? You sure?
Yeah, I'm 100% positive on this one.
Dang. What about all the company magnetic force stuff about the chasing?
Other thing. There was so many cards in the game, and they were just like, oh well, this card is they're like, what, I can't remember the exact number, but there was a stupid amount of cards, but only 100 cards mattered, and then you had to collect 1 through 100, I think it was, to get card 0 or something like that.
Yeah, you had to collect.
So only one person could get like the card to beat the game.
Well, yeah, because it was like the really rare cards. There were only, I think, 3 copies.
Yeah, there was only like 3 copies of each one. But and it was just at the end of it though, it was kind of like, okay, so this is the other thing that we never got to learn about was so after the person collected the card, they had to take this quiz, which in my personal opinion just kind of like made collecting all the cards stupid, because the person who like did the highest on the quiz got the card.
Yeah.
So what was the point in one person collecting all the cards if you were just gonna give it to the person who passed the quiz?
You gotta know your stuff. You gotta get good. Like that's really the only explanation I can give you.
Spent all this time. Gon technically lost an arm.
Yeah.
And then he didn't get the card. Like, man, no.
No, but he did get the card, didn't he?
No, he ended up getting the card. But what I'm saying was, like, had he not gotten that card, it's like, yo, what did we do all this for?
Oh yeah, you're right. You're definitely right.
Because if I put myself in that situation, like, yo, I just got screwed over. I went through all this work. I fought the bomber, almost died, getting all these cards, and then you don't give it to me? Man, no.
Yeah, man. But you got to remember too who made the game. His dad, the worst dad of all time, made this game.
That's a whole new video topic. Is it?
Oh yeah, you're right.
Or is it Goku?
They're competing. They're going neck and neck for that. Who knows? But yeah,
that's a comment section topic. Worst dad, Ging or Goku?
Let us know.
Right.
Yeah, man. I mean, the quiz thing that threw me for a loop as well. But then the way they the way they aligned it, it was like either way they were gonna get that card because of just how it's like, you know what, you saved all of our lives, so we're kind of in debt to you. So it's like regardless if you do or don't, somebody in the group has got you. And I was like, that's pretty cool. It's a whole like friendship willpower situation. It reminds me a lot of like in One Piece, like Luffy, he's like, yeah, I just do what I want to do, and if you want to help me, it's like, oh, you have this weird aura about you, and we just want to help you because we want to help you. So that was cool. So yeah, that's our number 7 spots. So I guess number 6. Oh man. Okay, so for me, number 6, even though this is an unofficial arc, it's the Zolok family arc in between the Hunter Exam and Heaven's Arena. It was only like what?
I want to say it was like
8 episodes.
Maybe 10. It was short.
Oh no, it's 5.
Really?
Yeah,
it was longer than that.
Because
I felt like when they were pushing the door open, it took them like 3 episodes.
Yeah, it was a mini training arc.
Yeah,
at least for.
And it was like an entire episode when they got inside, because it was like they dealt with Goto. I don't know, man. I just might be remembering everything completely wrong.
No, it took them, I want to say, either because the first time when they got there, because they had to deal with the whole watchdog situation, because the gatekeeper, he was telling them about, oh, you can go through this door, but I promise you it won't end well.
Right.
And then so they was like, okay, we got to train you guys up so you can go ahead and get in the testing gates, because if you go through the testing gates, the watchdog won't attack you, he won't kill you,
he won't eat you.
Yeah. And so I was like, oh, okay, so we gotta lift something, real heavy. And so they trained them up, and it's like, oh, this is what they're doing. And so once they got in, it was like, okay, now we have to get to the actual house, and they had to deal with the apprentice butler. And so I was like,
Canary.
Yeah, like she was cool. I actually enjoyed her character, and she did her duty, but she has feelings for the MC. I mean, who wouldn't, I guess. But
isn't that how it always works in anime?
Yeah, so it's just like, oh, she wanted to be friends, or he wanted to be friends, and it's like, oh, the dynamic between the Zoloks and their butlers, it's very weird, but I also get it in a sense. And so like I enjoyed the arc for what it was, but I also saw it for what it was, and it's like, okay, my friend's here, I have to get stronger so I can go see him, because you got to remember in the beginning, Killua and Gon were, I wouldn't say worlds apart, but it was a pretty good gap between their power. They would just happen to be friends. Yeah. So like,
because Gon was that kid who had natural talent, and Killua was this kid who had been trained from basically birth to do what he's doing.
Definitely. And it was, to me, like I said, it was cool. Like I had to look at these arcs as if like I looked at them how I felt as I watched them, versus me just sitting down and said objectively based on plot and like what ends up happening is like, because a lot of times I look at things very, very objectively, but as I watched this anime as a series as a whole, I was like, this actually made me feel something. So I was like, let me stick with that as I make my list. But like I enjoyed it, but as far as like how I felt, I'm like, oh, okay, so this is our objective. We need to train more, and then we're gonna go get our friend and we're gonna bounce. And I was like, oh, to me it was an extraction mission, and that's how I saw it.
I got you.
Yeah,
I enjoyed it. So, well, all right. So my number 6 is the Hunter Chairman election. A lot for the reasons that you mentioned. There wasn't enough action, but at the same time, I did enjoy the mental battle of like the entire arc. And then what was also dope was like we saw a lot of characters come back from like the Zoldyck family. Like we saw Goto come back, we saw Canary. Then they introduced the grandma. What was her name?
Hold on.
I had it pulled up right here. Sabone.
Yeah.
Like she was just like a dope character. Like granted, I think we only saw her for maybe like 2 episodes, but she was a dope character. And then you saw, I think at that point in that series or arc, you realize like the relationship between Hisoka and Illumi.
Yeah, Illumi. Yeah.
Like it wasn't a true friendship. It was all business with everything they've done. And it was like you saw Hisoka tick off Illumi and he showed that bloodlust, and Killua would like high stepped it out of there.
Yeah.
So it's like you just saw everything come full circle in a sense, and you learn more about like that family in general.
Definitely.
So I don't know, like you touched on it a lot already, so there's
Yeah.
not much more for me to go in. Like again, Goto getting his head sliced off by Hisoka, that was just a dope moment. And then you saw him with the machine gun quarters, that was a dope moment. Like that fight had dope moments.
Yeah.
It just wasn't the greatest of fights because it was truly one-sided.
Oh yeah, definitely.
But and then again, Leorio getting to punch Gene. But now that I've brought this up, again, spoilers for people who have not read the manga, and like if y'all want to be real, this is never getting animated because the series has damn near caught up. So I don't know if you read this part about in the manga about was it Gene? I'm trying to remember now. So like Gene's ability, did you get to that point?
Oh yeah, I did read about it. I vaguely remember it though.
So Gene's ability is when he gets hit by a physical attack, he can copy that person's ability.
Yeah. But also too, because he just copies it. It's not like he can
made that moment. What's up?
Nah, he was like I think he said he can copy it, but I don't think either he uses it, it doesn't. He can still use it. It's not like other people's ability where they can copy it and only use it once.
No, yeah, he can continue to use it. He just can't use it to the extent as the original user.
Yeah.
So what was like in the Chimera Ant arc, the lion, I think his name was Leo. Like he could copy people's ability.
Yeah.
But like I think Gene can do it to a bigger extent because I can't remember how Leo used it, but like he didn't have like a complete like he didn't have a mastery of her or anything like that because he was just copying other people's stuff.
Yeah.
But like Gene could use it to like a better he could use it almost as well as like the original creator, but just not, to perfection.
Yeah.
And so like when you know that and then seeing Leorio punch him, it changes it because it's like, oh, so he let Leorio punch him. Because that was basically how I saw it when I read it in that manga chapter.
Yeah.
So it changes a little bit, but it didn't really like push it all the way to the top before. But now we know what Gene's ability is. So it's like, he probably been beat up several times just so he could take people's abilities.
Very true. Because you bring up actual good point about when Leorio punched him, because although it was very rewarding to us who is like watching, and also I guess at the time the people who were reading, it's like, yes, like this, he gets what he deserves, and it's like, yeah, but then you go back and you see this and it's like, oh, it cheapens it cheapens the moment slightly, and it's like, man, he planned this whole thing out. How good is this guy? But it's like, I want to admire him for how good he is, but at the same time, it's like, you're a terrible dad, bro. Like, you're an awful dad.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
But it just really makes you wonder, like, all the people he's met in his lifetime, how, the abilities that he's probably copied, how strong is he and how smart is he? Because nin abilities are whatever you want to make them. And I think there was somebody's ability, like they can be like super smart, or maybe I'm getting this confused with a different anime. But it's like they had an ability to be like really smart, and maybe he got punched by them, and now he has their mental prowess or whatever.
Yeah.
It would explain why he was able to build a game, but
makes sense.
Yeah. All right.
So
what's your number 5?
My number 5 is, and y'all might hate me for this, but I'm ready for the hate. My number my number 5 is gonna be the Hunter exam, and I have to explain myself because we met. It was like the beginning. It was the very first arc, and it was like, all right, so we're gonna get the characters. We're gonna be introduced to several characters who ended up being, if not main characters, strong supporting characters. You get, Gon, you get Killua, Leodio, Kurapika, you get Hisoka, Lumi.
Lumi. Yeah.
You get a bunch of people who what I can say, nothing was wasted, but at the same time it was a lot of introductory stuff, and we didn't know much about the world itself until after the actual Hunter exam. Which, even though that was the focus of it, was to we're just gonna focus on the Hunter exam, but it was just like we were given the tip of the iceberg, as we should with introductory arcs. And it's not by me putting it at number 5 doesn't mean that I'm saying it's bad. It's just that the other arcs on the list just, to me, felt like better arcs. Because 7 and 6 to me is like, okay, 7 is just I enjoyed it, but not to the extent that I enjoyed the others. And then, like I said, 6 was very short. I couldn't put it any higher, but it didn't deserve to be the last one. So when it came to like between, I think I told you this in person, 5 through like 3, I had a time. I was like, I don't know where anything goes at this point. But the couple key moments, again, because I'm all about the toxic masculinity. So the fight between the convicts and the team, far as Kurapika, Leodio, Killua, and the freshman, not freshman killer, what's his name? The newbie,
the newbie crusher,
the newbie crusher,
like
yeah, the noob crusher.
Yeah.
That whole scene when they had to fight the convicts, and Killua would rip this guy's heart out of his chest with such malice, I was like, that literally made me like, I outcried. So I was like, what just happened here? I was hyped. Like, I was in my house and I stood up. I was like, this is what I'm here for. And so at that point, I was
funny though. Like, when you started to say you was hyped, I immediately, before you even said it, imagine you standing up.
I was hyped. I was like, this is why I'm here. Like, this is what we doing out here. And so I was like, man, just, it made me a fan of Killua, but also like, it just, I don't know, man. It just gave us the most overpowered character in the show. The main man himself, Leodio, with his briefcase. And I'm just like, listen, man, this guy is going places. So like, just for that, because I mean, the whole thing from getting to the Hunter exam to how our characters interact with each other, because at the time they really didn't know each other that well. They were just, we're going to this spot and you happen to be okay people. You seem like a person I can trust. And so it was a lot of them trying to figure each other out, see what's going on. And a lot of them just coming to the realization that Gon is extremely stubborn. And I can appreciate the exposition. I can appreciate the bit of world building they did. But compared to the other artists on the list, I'm like, I had to put it here.
I respect that.
Yeah.
But you just mentioned Leora's briefcase, and maybe I need to go back and pay closer attention to the manga. But he ain't had that briefcase in the Dark Continent arc.
Oh man, you know why? Because the author knew if Leodio brought his briefcase to the Dark Continent, they would have wrapped up the whole arc in probably like about 4 or 5 chapters. He would have popped that briefcase open, answered all your problems in his briefcase right there. Boom.
All right, so my number 5, and I'm gonna get some hate for this, is Heaven's Arena. Now, the reason why is because, again, it's a training arc, and I'm not big on training arcs. Like, I feel like training arcs can like just be inserted into more of a main plot. Like, I feel like the mini training arc with Bisky and Greed Island, like, had we had something like that, because Heaven's Arena itself, that's all it was. It was just training. They learned how to use Nin. They learned what Nin was. They were just there for money because they needed the money to potentially buy Greed Island. And it was just, it ended up being nothing but training. Like, the only good moment, I think there was 2 good moments in this entire arc. It was when Zushi kept getting up from Killua's hits, and then Killua just was like terrified when Zushi released his Nin because he had no idea what it was. And then Wing had to yell out from the crowds, Zushi, stop, because like Zushi had intent to kill Killua at that time, but Killua was much more skilled I don't want to necessarily say in fighting, but because he's an assassin, Zushi would have died.
Oh, of course.
But it was like Wing had to stop him. And so like that was just like a dope moment. And then going back to the Hunter exam when Hisoka punched Gon because Gon took his tag or whatever, his number tag.
Yeah.
And he was like, yeah, when you punch me, I'll take that tag back. And so Gon finally punched him, and like they just stopped mid-fight, and Gon gave him the tag. I was like, all right, that's respect.
Yeah.
But it was like those were like really the only two moments that I enjoyed. But it was like you had a lot of great fights. Hold up. Hope you didn't hear that because my phone started vibrating.
Oh no, I didn't hear it.
All right, cool. But like you had a lot of great fights with what's buddy name with the white hair?
Oh, Castro.
Yeah, him and Hisoka. That was a dope fight. But it was at the end of it was just like more of Hisoka flexing how strong he actually is because he just played with him the whole time. He's like, yo, you want my arm? Take it. Don't care.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's like I said, dope fights. They got Nen, which ended up being the catapult for the rest of the arc, so I couldn't put it at the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
But again, training arc could have just been thrown in the middle. Like they could have, because they went straight to Greed Island after. No, they went to York.
Yeah.
So it was like you could have thrown like some kind of training somewhere at York New and just bypassed Heaven's Arena, in my opinion.
But they needed the loot though, bruh. Like
you're right, they did, but I feel like they could have gotten the money without needing Nen. Because honestly, I think they had the money before they got to the 100. Was it the 100 floor or the 1000 floor? Whichever the floor was. 200 floor, yeah. So I think they had the money they needed before they got there. Yeah. So it was like it just didn't at that point wasn't necessary. But I know you got a little bit higher, so we'll talk more about it when we get there.
Yeah, because I was gonna ask you, because you brought up two interesting points about Zushi would have died fighting Killua with that intent to kill. Oh, I said you mentioned Zushi would have died if he would have continued to fight Killua. The only thing, because now that as I'm in retrospect, because Killua still had the pen from Lumi in his forehead, which was always telling him if he wasn't sure he can win the fight to like run away. So it would have been interesting to see that fight completely play out, seeing that because he was kind of shook to the fact that Zushi kept getting up even though he hit him with like 100% of his power, which is odd, by the way, because Killua can, like, at the time he was opening the third and fourth gate of his testing gates, which was like tons of force, you know what I mean? Yeah. And so it's like Zushi should have already have been dead.
Well, it was because he was using Nen to block the hit. Like he knew where the hit was coming from, which his reaction speed from coming to an assassin is amazing. First off, but yeah, I think like Killua would have killed him. I don't think Zushi was advanced enough in Nen to have avoided being killed.
Okay, that's fair enough. I can understand that. It was something else. You brought up another point too. It's evaded me now, but I'll probably end up coming back to it because Heaven's Arena is a little bit higher on my list. But yeah, so what, we on number 4 now?
Yeah, let me start with number 4 since we've already touched on it, because I think you had this on 6th.
Okay.
But my 4th was the Zoldyck family arc, and it was a lot for the reasons that you mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
But they brought some interesting characters. You know, they claim it's an unofficial arc, but they did very well in the 5 episodes that it was, and I'm seeing that there's only 5 chapters in the manga too. But it was very interesting because, like I said, you got Goto with his quarters, and then you saw like the how dedicated the butlers were to this family. It's like they did so much for this family. They dedicated their lives for it. Literally, you saw that when Goto got his head sliced off in the chairman arc.
Yeah.
But it was just to see that dynamic, to see how much they would do, how far they would go for that family. It was just, I respect it so much. And that little coin trick to me was dope. And then Gon being able to see him between like 4 people throwing their arms, and he was like, "Yo, it's not in front of me; it's in the guy's hand behind me." Like, wait, what?
Yeah.
How did you? No, man, run it back.
Run it all the way back, my G.
But it was definitely like an enjoyable 5 episodes, and then you had like the little conversation between Killua and his dad. Because you like, before you would have thought, yo, this family is absolutely insane. Like Killua is the outlier.
Yeah.
Like the rest of the family is just cold blooded and they don't like each other. But no, like you saw the dynamic between Killua and Silver. I think so. Silver.
Yeah.
And he's like, no, I genuinely care for my son. Yeah, I'm a cold blooded killer, but I love my kids.
Definitely.
Yeah. So it was a lot of different things running around in this little 5 episode arc.
Yeah, because that scene between Killua and his dad, and he's all like, "So you want to go hang out with your friends? Is that what this is about? All right, well, make me a promise that you'll do whatever you need to do for your friends." And like it was, you can tell in like that scene, because I'm looking at the series of how it made me feel. It's like, yo, his dad actually cares about him. You know what I mean? And it's like, yo, he's unlike Jing, he's a good dad. Right. You know what I mean? Like it's the complete opposite. And seeing the dynamic between how Killua and his dad is, and then how Jing and Gon are, it's like, man, like no one of these two, like they're I wouldn't say broken, but they
are opposite sides of the same coin.
Yeah, you know what I mean? And it was just like, okay, cool. And the granddad, even hold on. First of all, let's talk about granddad.
Hold on. We can't get to the granddad yet. You know that later.
all right, cool. But yeah, man. So the whole thing, I enjoyed it as well, and the coin tricks, all of that was dope stuff. I'm trying to think of, it was something my brain moves way too fast. I don't think that as far as the family how they operate, because like you said, they it seems as if they hate each other. But
well, that was because like when you come from the hunter exam and then you see Illumi didn't have that, no, I'm teasing my little brother feel. It's no. I'm terrifying my little brother is legitimately terrified of me. Mm-hmm. And between the exchange between the two of them, and then you see Gon's reaction after, he finds out Killua killed somebody because of what Illumi did. It makes you seem like, yo, this family of assassins is all about work. They don't like each other. But then you get to this arc and you see the exchange between Killua and Silva, and it's like, that's not the case at all.
Yeah. Like,
even with the other brother,
the middle child?
The big boy, he liked video games and always eating potato chips. Yeah. I don't remember his name because he's not important. But it was like, he teased Killua. But you could legitimately see is like, yo, that's just normal family teasing. It's not on the level of Illumi.
True.
So,
because Illumi, I think Illumi had this weird. He had a weird way of being a older brother. And I like
that's because that was in the. I guess we could talk about more about that in the Chimera when we get to the Chimera part. But
okay, yeah.
Because I want to talk about that, but. I think that goes into Killua's development, so I don't want to hit that here.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'll leave it at they're a dysfunctional family by normal means, but it's just they're functionally dysfunctional as a family, and it just somehow. What's that?
Oh no, I was gonna say before I let you get your number 4. That mom is weird. I have no idea what or who she is. Like, bro, did she get her eyes ripped off and she got it replaced by like a android or a cyborg or something? Like, yo,
she got some type of work done. Definitely.
Yeah,
because they mentioned it in the series. They were just saying that I don't know if it was Killua who lashed out or if it was one of the other brothers who lashed out and attacked her. But she's like, I was so proud when they did it, and it's like
it was Killua because they because of his personality, it surprises them when he does anything like threatening like that.
Yeah.
It was just, man. All right.
Cool.
Anyway, what's your number 4?
My number 4 is the Chimera Ant arc, and
boy,
Oh, we're gonna talk about it.
All right. Well,
But I just felt like the art was way too long, man. We had some dope characters that were introduced. And the one guy who's only seconded to the main man himself, your boy Kaito, Kite came through. I don't know why, but I just fell in love with Kite. I'm like, this is the guy we need to be following. He was a very stoic dude, man. I was like, he knows his stuff. He's a great hunter, trained by Jing himself, and he's not like Jing at all. It was just different. The Chimera ants, like, they were okay. I just didn't, at first I didn't get what we were getting into, because of like the queen was eating literally everything, and it's like they kept coming back to that in the episodes as if, oh, the queen's eating more stuff. She's eating fish, she's eating crabs, she's eating people, which was a huge like turn off for me, because I was like, when in spoiler alert, I guess they ate the kids, I was like, I am done. I don't want anything else to do with this arc because they're eating children. And so that messed with me on a certain level, and I stuck it out because I was like, you know what, they're doing this for a reason. They're really trying to make us hate the Chimera ants. And so I was like, let me just see how this plays out. But like, they just kept eating like people, like just. And then actually once the first squad commander was actually in play, he was like, all right, we're not messing with the kids at all. We're just gonna take the adults, and that'll be that. And I was like, okay, he's a noble person.
Somebody with a moral conscience.
Yeah, somebody with moral compass. And I was like, okay, cool. That's cool. Some of the fight scenes, as far as like, it was when they got ambushed by the Chimera ants. It was Kite, Killua, and Gon.
When Pito just like springboarded from 50 miles away.
Yeah. And even that included, but it was the whole simple fact that when they show up and Kite's like, oh, y'all should get behind me, and they were like, oh,
he pulled out that scythe.
Yeah, and they were like, yo, Kite, we feel you on that and everything, but you keep forgetting we're pro hunters. We got this. And they proceeded to beat Chimera ants, and it's like, oh snap, they're taking on squad leaders. They have some promise, and they were showing off abilities that for children their age, they shouldn't be anywhere near this. But again, they're proteges, but they didn't leave it at that.
Right.
So yeah, it was just what was I saying? Because I wrote some notes down. But just at one point I was amazed by that, but also I also feel like my expectations for the arc was set so high because I've heard like really good things about the arc itself. But at the same time, my main takeaway was just like when they brought the kids into it, and sometimes like the whole thing for me was, it was a lot of, I can't even really say shock value or shock factor, because it was just certain scenes within the actual arc that just made me feel a bit uncomfortable. And I guess because like me being a human, and it's like, oh, this other species is like trying to, I guess, usurp humans, and it's like, nah, dog, we can't really have.
You're
that.
not a what is it called? Alpha predator? Or no, it's not.
Yeah, we're not an apex predator anymore.
Apex predator.
Yeah, it is like it's something out there that really wants to smoke, and it's more instinctual than anything. But like I said, it was an okay arc. The characters introduced the new Chimera ants and how they interacted, as if they're the same ant structure from when they're just ants, was the same thing that happened once they became like living beings, and they actually had their own personalities, which was interesting because the very thing that made them stronger was the very thing that actually tore them apart. And so it was like, because you introduce humans into the food chain and their personalities are being transferred, you're bringing in free will into a structured instinct environment, which totally disrupts that ecosystem. You know what I mean? And so I was just like, man, like this is interesting of how this is going to play out, because you have they're like, the royal guard is loyal to the king, but they have their own thought process, they have their own feelings, they have their own way of doing things. And you can see, oh, I'm supposed to take care of the king, but the king doesn't even know what's good for him, so I'm gonna go ahead and make the decision for him. And it's like, you can't do that. And so it was a lot of too many chiefs and not enough Indians in a sense. And it was just, like I said, the arc just kind of dragged on a little bit too long for me. Netero coming through, that was dope. And Granddad Zolok, he shows up, and that's the guy, man. I know I said it like 8 times already, but like he's that
this man punched a dragon out of his fist.
Exactly. They rode in on a dragon of Nen, dog. Like, what more do you want from that? Like it was just great, and I'm like, yo, he's that. They're Netero and Granddad Zola. They're the pretty much in almost any anime, they're the old dudes who are extremely powerful, and I like to see that. I like the same thing with Yamamoto from Bleach, like same thing with Rayleigh from One Piece. Like we can go on and on, but like I like to see that. But just as a whole, and I didn't like too how the series, how the actual arc ended, because they didn't beat him through like the main shonen protagonist. I have to be as strong as you and beat you. It was like, no, we're gonna die because of like gamma radiation. So yeah, like that's why I placed it number 4, because to me it was like I didn't get a feel for what the arc wanted to be, because it was kind of all over the place in my personal opinion.
Okay, I respect it.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, so I can't remember where you had this. I think you had this at number 5, but at number 3, I have the Hunter exam. And like you mentioned, this, for it being a introductory arc, it introduced a lot of people, but I think it introduced them in the right way. They maintained Gon as the main character, and then it's like, yo, we're going to introduce these other pieces, but we're not going to give them a lot of spotlight, but we're going to give them some spotlight. Because, you know, like with Leorio, they continue to say, well, he wants to be a doctor and he's doing doctor things. It's like, even when he did the fight with the convicts, it was like, it wasn't anything physical. It wasn't anything too like crazy. It stayed in his realm. They didn't try to make anybody outside of what it needed to be. With Kurapika and his eyes, basically he was using the Sharingan. They kept it where everything needed to be. Like, I think at that point though, we still knew nothing about his eyes or him. Like, he was just still a man of mystery. He was basically Sasuke.
Yeah.
Hisoka, when they brought Hisoka in, they set the bar. It's like, this is where you need to be. And then even when they set that bar, it's like, nah, this is just like the tip of the iceberg bar.
The baby bar.
Right. So it was just like if this is a jungle gym, you might be at the second bar and you're nowhere near me. And so I just thought it was like dope. It's like, yo, and then like throughout the series, like when they brought Hisoka in, it was like, yo, this is where you need to be. And I think this just catapulted the series, and it did it in a very good way, because they continued to always come back to the series, whether they were bringing in older characters or just referencing back to it, because this is when you first met Netero.
Yeah.
And you know, you had, like, when you see Killua, you had, I think at this point they had already gotten back, or they had already gotten through the convict fight, and Killua had ripped that man's heart out. Again, I might be getting the order wrong, and then they get to Netero, and they're inside the hot air balloon, and you had such high praise for Killua, and then you realize, compared to the rest of the world, Killua is a scrub.
Yeah.
And so it kind of brings you back to reality for a second. It's like, yo, Killua and Gon are still kids, and they're very good, but they're kids. They can't touch anyone, you know, who has been doing this for even a year after we learned about Nen later. And so later on, since you've already mentioned the Chimera Ant arc, you learn about Netero and how he got strong and his craziness and all of that. And I was just like, yo, when you tie everything back together, this makes for one of the best opening arcs I've ever seen in like an anime. And maybe that's the reason why I have this at number 3, is because it is one of the better opening arcs. Like, depending on how, like, you want to look at certain things, like if you want to go back to Dragon Ball, if you want to use Dragon Ball as a series itself, like that first arc where they're trying to find Master Roshi or find the Dragon Balls, and yeah, I think they were trying to collect. Yeah, it was cool, but it wasn't great. And then you go to the Saiyan saga, which it was like, depending on how you want to break that up, if you want to include arc from when Raditz first arrives to after they defeat Vegeta, or if you just want to include Raditz's part, like they weren't good, but I don't think it lived up because even if you tried to come, they never came back to it that often.
Yeah.
Whereas Hunter x Hunter, it seems like it always came back because Gon was always trying to reach Hisoka. Hisoka saw something in Gon early on. I think you and I talked about how, and this may have been something completely different, but how we talked about there was always, or actually I might have been talking to somebody else about how like we always go back to a different episode. But I just remember having a conversation with somebody like, you know, you bring something up in an episode and then you don't go back to it. Well, it's like they seem to always go back to it. Like in this arc, they had those flying jackals or whatever those guys were, taking them to like a certain area.
Yeah.
Well, when Killua had to go and repeat the Hunter exam, they brought those jackals back. And so it was like, it was just dope to see like, yo, we didn't forget about this. Whereas with Dragon Ball Z, Toriyama's forgetful, so he forgets stuff. So it's like, it's dope to see somebody remember what it is, even if they can read the material to remember stuff. But to have somebody who goes back and says, "Hey, remember this? Yeah, I didn't forget about it."
Yeah.
So I just think like, if you didn't have a good arc, it doesn't set up the rest of your story well. And I feel like this one was done well because the rest of the story seems to always come back to it.
Yeah, it seems to be a revolving door of like between characters and motives and how things are interconnected.
Yep.
Yeah, so that's what it seems like. They don't show you things in this series to just, like you said, show you and forget about them. It's like, no, remember this because this is going to be something later on.
Yeah, the only thing I will say that they never touched back on was the types of hunters. So, you know, you had the two people who were like, I can't remember, like gourmet hunters or whatever they were.
Yeah.
We never saw like the different types on it because like Netero, what type of hunter is he?
He just
he's just a chairman. Like, what type of hunter were you before the chairman? Trying to think who else. I don't think they really touched on it because it seemed like people used getting a hunter's license to be able to travel freely throughout the world instead of doing something specific. Like even when you met the Zodiacs, like they never mentioned what they did specifically. Like they were just advisors to Netero.
Yeah.
So I think that might be my only gripe with this arc. Is like we never hear about like specific hunter jobs anymore.
Yeah, because they sprinkled them in here and there. Like Jing, I think he was more so like archaeology and different things like that.
Yeah, but I think they talked about that in the manga.
Oh, okay. Because I know they mentioned it before. I
don't think anybody ever knew. If I might, like, it's been a while since I watched this series, but I don't think too many people, if anybody, really knew what he did. Maybe Kite might have mentioned it because Kite spent the most time with him.
Yeah, because they showed something about because they were ruins that were restored somehow, and he fronted the money for it, and he would just go find, because I think Jing, his whole thing was anything that interests him, he wants to learn about it. And so I think it just fell under the category of archaeology, but it was like literally anything that just caught his eye. He was like, all right, I'm this type of hunter. Because like Kai, he said it, he was like, yeah, I specialize in, I observe animals and I learn about new species and so on and so forth. And so it was just weird because one of the guys, because you mentioned how they had the revolving door of just connectivity, one of the guys who ended up passing the hunter exam because Killua killed that old dude, he became a certain type of hunter, and I can't remember what it was, only because like it was briefly mentioned.
The guy with the turban.
Yeah, who ended up biting it, kicking the bucket, because like he was a specific type of hunter as well. But they were just so few and far in between that it was like it kind of doesn't matter what they do because they're being called to do something else.
Right.
Yeah, because I don't remember exactly what Nove was, but
might be in a sense like the most useless thing.
Yeah,
I enjoy doing or something like that, but like being called a gourmet hunter or archaeology hunter, it might just be useless in that sense.
Yeah, because like Nove and what's Buddy's name with the white hair and the smoke? Moral was his name. Because they weren't combat hunters, and that was a crazy thing, because even though like Nova didn't do too much and he turned into something completely different during the Chimera Ant arc, that wasn't his specialty. Moral combat, even though he was very good at it, he was a very good tactician, and probably one of my favorite hunters in the series. But he's not necessarily built for combat. He was a different type of. I think he messed around with like marine life. He brought it up at one point. I think it was in the election arc or something like that. Somebody called him on the phone, and he was just like, "Yeah, I specialize in this, but like I can help you out with that." And so it was pretty cool. But like, yeah, they didn't specify for every hunter, but for the important ones, they kind of tossed in like, "Oh, this is what they do on a regular basis."
Okay, see, this is why like I should have gone back and watched it just to make sure, because now the comment section is probably tearing me apart.
Nah, it's all good. But so yeah, that was your number 3?
Yeah, that was my number 3.
All right, cool. So my number 3 was Heaven's Arena, and it's not really too much to say about this one. It was like you said, the introduction of Nin, which is the final hunter exam to like just test.
Yeah.
As far as like fights, like you said, you already brought up the fight between Hisoka and Castro or Caster, or I think it's Castro or Caster. But that was a very cerebral fight to me. It just, like you said, it was, I can't say it was one-sided. I think it was more showmanship than anything on Hisoka's part, because like you said, the whole you can take my arm, and then he took the wrong arm. He's like, come on, dude, I gave you this one, but okay, if you insist. Like, it was a very like just mental battle that Castro was just not prepared for at all. Other than that, it just it made me rank that like Heaven's Arena, because for some odd reason, what I've noticed about Hunter x Hunter, their training arcs to me are really good. The whole thing about Wing showing them Nen and opening up their aura pores and just showing them the basics, even though he lied to them. He's like, all right, I can't just teach you Nen because you want to like know it, because this stuff is dangerous. You know what I mean? Because it was a point where I'm not sure if it was Gon or Killua, but something ended up happening where he's like, yeah, I can teach you Nen, but I have to be careful, because he even said it to himself, like, I may have to kill one of these kids. Like, he blatantly said it. And I was like, but who? Because I thought at one point Wing was just like a weird dude, because he came off very peculiar. But no, like that particular, like, I guess storyline, or that particular thing about his identity never went anywhere, and I'm not upset about it. It was just that it was very odd for him to say that, because he's mentoring like this child, which is Zushi, and he's like, yo, I might have to kill your friends, because I think what it was is, I think the level at which they progressed scared him, and he's like, I don't know what to do with these kids, and he really thought like, yeah, I may have to take one of these kids out. But other than that, like the exposition, because I felt like information regarding Nen was very fleshed out in Heaven's Arena, because I'm all about lore, I'm all about backstory, I'm all about just learning as much as I can, because they pretty much let you know that if you can master the basics of Nen, and it can be whatever you want it to be, because when they do the heavenly, I'm not holy selection, that's Bleach, I'm blending anime.
I think I've been doing that this entire time too. So
yeah, like they mentioned the holy divination or whatever, when you mess with the water in the cup,
when you figure out what type of Nen you have.
Yeah, when you do that. He's like, yeah, you're either going to be this particular type, but they also tell you what the types specialize in. They tell you, oh yeah, if you're this type, you can learn these other types, and the chart works in a certain way, which you can go from top to bottom, but you can't. No, yeah, you can go from top to bottom, but you can't go from the bottom up.
Which?
Yeah.
Which with Astro, like that was his downfall because I can't remember what his original type was, but like he went to being a completely different type. Like I think it was on the opposite end of his spectrum.
Yeah.
And so like he couldn't fully master it, which was how like when he split his body, Kizuka was able to tell the difference because it was like, yo, there's like a little bit of dirt on the original body.
Yeah.
So
but
like,
they explained that though. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they did.
And that's really why I liked it. It was a very informative arc for me. And it's like, yeah, he lets him know your nin is an extension of yourself. The only limits you actually have with nin are the ones that you put on yourself, and you can literally do whatever you want. If you're an emitter and you want to focus on being an emitter, you can be a really great emitter. If you're an enhancer, you can dump all your skill points into that. Like that's basically what it was. It was like this weird RPG situation where like you have these skill points, you can do whatever you want to do with them. And like I just really appreciate that because the fight scenes were good, and seeing Gon the Killua pick up on skills, because you actually get to see Gon learn as he fights, and that's a very shonen protagonist situation to be in because everybody does that. But it's different watching Gon do it because you actually get to see him put the work in and see the fruits of his labor, even though it is all instinctual. But he has the framework that he's been working on to be like great. And I can appreciate that from a storytelling perspective and also from like a visual aspect of we see why he is as good as he is. But yeah, that's my number 3.
No, yeah, I respect. Like I think we said, between 3, pretty much in any order.
Yeah.
But I really don't like train.
That's cool. All
right.
On to the number 2 spot though.
Number 2.
I ain't gonna lie. 1 and 2 for me. This was extremely rough.
Yeah.
You wanna take this one, or you want me to go ahead and go?
I'll go ahead and take this one.
Right.
Number 2 for me is York New City. If there was anything, I can't find any problems with this arc other than at times it may have slowed down, and that was more so with Kurapika becoming a bodyguard.
Mm-hmm.
And like when he first got there and they were testing him, and like the other, I think it was like 3 or 4 others that made it through, like they were testing all the guards just to make sure that they had the skills, and that might have been like the slowest part, even though it was still dope because you got to see like, Kurapika is really smart, but that might have been like the slowest part of the entire arc. Other than that, I can't find any gripes. Like they get there and they're like, yo, you got to deal with the Phantom Trope. You see these guys walking down the road and they just like weird people.
Yeah.
I can't remember the one guy's name with the sword.
Oda Nobunaga, the Demon King. Yeah.
I can never say his name because it's so damn long. But it's like you see him and he looks like what's buddy name from the other anime with the swords?
Wait. From like Bleach or from?
It's not from Bleach. It'll come to me later.
Yeah.
And it's gonna bother me because it's not gonna be like while we talking about this. But like he just looks like some lazy guy who just like he's just out of place. And so you just like, these guys aren't strong.
He gave me Shikamaru vibes.
Yeah, a little bit. He looked like an older Shikamaru. And then like, I keep wanting to call Buddy Sphinx, but that's not his name. But Sphinx, I think that's the one who could just like charge his arm up, and like however many times he pumps it, like that's just how much stronger it gets.
Oh yeah. Sphinx, I get you. Yeah.
Yeah. And so it's like he looks like that guy, like he should be like the strongest, but obviously it's never that guy.
Yeah. And
so it's just like, okay, you might be doing something, but then you see Phaeton, and he just all mysterious, and you're like, nope, Phaeton is the one you got to watch out for because it's always the mysterious guy. And then I'm gonna get to that because obviously since York is my number 2, Chimera Ant arc is my number 1, but I'm gonna get to that because Phaeton had his moment in the Chimera Ant arc But
Very true. Quick side note, yeah, his name actually is it's not Sphinx, but it's
no, it's Sphinx.
It's Sphinx. Yeah, like
Yeah,
it's real similar, but like I was like, is
yeah.
it Sphinx or is it
No,
like
it's
Sphinx?
Sphinx.
Yeah,
Yeah, I just every time I think of it, I say Sphinx in my head. I'm like, no, it's Sphinx.
yeah,
But yeah, it's like all the trope members, like they were very interesting characters. You got Uvo, like just a straight up brute, and like his nin abilities portrayed it, and he was like, yo, this man just ate somebody's face. First off,
yeah.
like, listen, when I saw that, I was like, I just paused and I was, what you just do? You just ate this man's face. And then he started sucking in air and got a chunk of a rock and spit it at somebody. What, bruh? Like, ooh, yes. Uvo was that dude. And then here you got Karapika, who's not been doing like this that long, but because he's smart, he created like the perfect nin ability to counter them without knowing any of their abilities. It's like that dynamic between Karapika finally getting his revenge in a sense, and then meeting all the troop members, it was just in a sense perfect. And then Karapika finally gets to meet the boss.
Oh yeah.
And he blocks his nin, but he can't use nin anymore. So I can't find too many things wrong with it. Like 1 and 2 are interchangeable for me.
Yeah.
But
because it's one of those things where, because I mean, if that's, yeah, if you're new, okay, so yeah, your number 2 is my number 1. So well, we already talking about it. We might as well just go ahead and just make this a segment. Yeah, like the whole thing is you pretty much said everything I was going to say. It was, to me, it was the greatest game of cat and mouse I've ever seen in my entire life.
Yeah.
Between, like I said, the Uvo situation, the mission of we have to, because they put a hit out on the Phantom Troop, and so it was a mission of we got to find out where they are. We got to try and capture somebody so we can get this money. And it was like, it was ridiculous because once they found them, it was, oh yeah, you guys have been being followed, but we've been following the guys you've been following, and they kidnapped them. And then now we, like, Karapika has the boss because Uvo's dead, because even though Karapika hadn't been doing hunter work for like a year, you know, he just got his hunter's license. He's just mastered nin. He's very green in this area, and he's accomplished so much. And it was like, all right, so y'all have my friends, I got y'all's boss, so we have to play this game of like this game of, I guess, chess of multiple levels. And there's so many pieces that's going on, because you have to remember Hisoka isn't an actual member of the troop. I just want to fight the boss, and it's like this whole thing of X factors, and just it was madness, man. It was just a lot of stuff happening really, really quickly, and I really felt I can feel the tension as I watched this whole thing happen, which was just like the icing on the cake for me, especially when Hisoka wanted to fight Charlo, and it's like, oh, you just wanted to fight him? Well, I can't use my nin, and it's like, you could have.
And you just see that look on his face. It was like, yo, that's the perfect face that anybody could have made in that situation.
Exactly. And I was just like, man, like it was as a comedic thing, it was funny, because it's like, you've been trying to like slide us this whole time.
Everything he's done to this point was to fight him, and it was just taken away.
It was. And I was like, man, but if we would have saw that fight animated, that would have probably been, maybe, I don't know, man. I just feel like I had high hopes for that fight, because we never really got to see the upper echelon of Hisoka's power, or almost anybody else's ability in the show. And as the actual animated portions that we got, like, we saw people do things, but we never really saw like an upper echelon of, this is as far as anybody can go. And the closest thing we got to that was Netero. But like, just as a whole, seeing the different mom bleeders, seeing the beasts that they had, each mob
Which
family
the
had a
beasts
sword.
are underwhelming. I expected them to fight the trope a lot better than they did.
I think matchups have a lot to do with what ended up happening, because they sent 4 beasts after the troop, which was, they should have went a lot harder than that. But when they showed up, it's like, oh, because you have to think about it too, like they view themselves as, we're the best of the best. And I don't think that they actually used Nin. I think they were just weird freaks of nature who they were just really good at killing people. So it's like, oh, we're apex predators, the troop. We heard about y'all, but nobody really, we heard about them, but nobody's never seen these guys in action. And so it's like, are we afraid of the myth or whatever it is? But when they show up, they was like, oh, the whole troop's here, but we're gonna send in our literally strongest guy, and he mopped the floor with them. And
and I love that part, because up to that point, you knew these guys were like really, really psychotic in a sense.
Yeah.
But you didn't know how strong they actually were. And it's like, well, they just hyped up these beasts saying they've never failed us. So it's like, okay, well, the mob hired these guys. They're loyal to the mob. Granted, they probably just loyal to the check.
Yeah.
But they hyped up these beasts. Like, granted, we've been hyped up by the Phantom trope, but I don't think like they hyped up the Phantom trope in a short amount of time that they hyped up these beasts. Mm-hmm. So it's like, when you see the beasts coming, you're like, okay, man, we finna get some real good fights in. And the only thing they really did was paralyze Uvo, and that didn't stop him
at all.
Okay, so the Phantom trope is a real deal.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, so Uvo's here, and I don't even know, like, because I don't think they have a ranking order, because they said the number doesn't match the rank. Yeah. So I don't know what the ranking order would be, but it makes you wonder, like, how far does Krollo's power go?
Yeah.
And so it's like, you see Uvo there, like, let's say Uvo's in the middle, like, where is Krollo?
They actually,
and I think that's the one thing. I think that's the one thing that probably is the worst part about that Hisoka Krollo fight not getting animated, because we don't get to see like the gaps in power between the trope members.
Yeah.
I think you're right. I think they did say Uvo was in the middle in terms of power,
because they were like, you're not the strongest, but you're not the weakest. But I think they all clearly said, like, the only person I think who, because Shizuku, with the whole arm wrestling situation, because Gon beat her, but she was using her left hand. But she was like, the only person who's ever beat her in an arm wrestling competition was Uvo. And they were like, yes, you are physically the strongest person, but you're not the strongest member in the actual troop. Yeah. So it was like, man, like, what is going on here? You know what I mean? And also between the fight with Charlo against the Zoldyx, like, that was
a dope fight.
It was.
And it's 1 against 2, and it's like, you know, these two are trained assassins. They've been assassins probably their entire lives. And Krollo probably, like, I could probably click on his page right now and it'll probably tell me he's in his 20s. And you have Silva, who's probably in his 40s. And I think we looked up the granddad's age, and I just don't remember his age, but I want to say he was in like his 70s.
Yeah.
Granted, you know, you could say, well, old age, you know, he took a step back, and it's like, is that really the case though? Because Netero, like, he was the top of the hunter world, and he was over 100. Yeah. So I don't know, like, I really want to know, like, the limits to this man's power.
Exactly. Because when I noticed something was up, and how I was like, how strong is the troop? Because when Granddad shows up and all the people who they hired to take on the trope, they're like, listen, all y'all can go home, because in 7 seconds I can kill all y'all right now. I was just like, yo, wait a minute, Granddad tripping. And like, no, like, this is y'all don't belong here. And then when they actually showed it happening, they was like, listen, he's like, I'm gonna rush him. Granddad's like, I'm gonna rush the boss. I need you to do your best attack. I need you to go in quick, go in clean. And if you gotta kill me, kill me. But this dude has to go. And you could just tell, like, they didn't take Charlo. They didn't underestimate him. They were like, if anything, we have to go in quick and clean, because if it goes too long, because he even said it when Charlo asked him, he's like,
he asked him at the end. He was just like, so had it continued to go on, who would have won?
Yeah,
Zeno was just like, you know how this would have ended, and he just smiled and basically, like, not in these words, but basically was like, I just wanted to hear you say it.
pretty much.
So it was like, bro, like he would have won that fight hands down.
Yeah, it was ridiculous because I'm just like, man, because I want to give him more credit than what I guess I can't even really say what he deserves because we never got to see his full power. But I think verbatim what was said was he's like don't I don't know if he said patronize me, but he was just saying like don't play with me. He's like, if it was a serious fight, I would win, but if it goes on too long, yeah, you're gonna beat me. And
Yeah.
I think that just goes to stamina because Zeno is an old dude. He is
Well,
old.
not even that. They're assassins, so they're not meant for or long
battles,
extended fights.
Yeah, and so it's just like that's. I wouldn't say if it was an extended battle, I would say like, yeah, Charlo's gonna win, but I don't think it would be low diff. It would be like, okay, he would still have to work for it.
He had to work for it.
Yeah, but he would end up getting the dub. But just the whole situation there, which is why your number 2 is my number 1. So like, that's what it is.
What's your number 2?
My number 2 is Greed Island.
Okay.
For the simple fact that it's oh man, I just thoroughly enjoyed Greed Island.
It's so crazy, like how we got them on opposite ends of the spectrum. So I'm like, this was my number 7. It's like, again, this was just like the bomber, but I've said why I didn't like it. Well,
yeah. Like it's to me, it was just other than York New. I think it was probably the most enjoyable arc for me, which is weird that it's my number 2. But the thing is, it was mostly just training, like I was saying, and that I just enjoyed seeing progression. I like to see our characters who they're learning, because I think I'm that type of individual. If I'm learning something new, if I'm learning how to become better at whatever it is that I'm doing, I enjoy the process of actually learning it. So, and also learning deeper ins and outs of the basics of Nin was very cool, because we learned about like Ren, we learned about like Nin, Ren, Zetsu,
Nin, Ren, Ten, and N.
Yeah, we learn about all of that, and those are just the basics. Then we get into like Ko, we get into I think, because did they mention is it Goyo or Gayo? I think I'm mixing some Spanish in.
Well, because we're watching Japanese, so we're gonna get pronunciation wrong. But.
Yeah, but just being able to see certain things, and there was like, yeah, you can mix certain basics of Nin to get more powerful versions of something else. Like you can use like Zetsu's or things. Zetsu's not only to just mask your presence, you can use Zetsu to do other things. Which also Zetsu, I found out I was watching, what was I watching? I was watching something. They were like, yeah, Zetsu keeps you from aging. And they mentioned how like just
I think they mentioned that what's Netero used it.
Yeah. Because they were like, when you use Zetsu, you're not only just concealing your presence, but you're not allowing your Nin to leak, which causes you to age. So if you can master Zetsu subconsciously, you'll stay young for an extremely long time. And that's why Netero is just so old, because he doesn't let any of his aura escape. It's just all of his life energy is just there. But we learn about that, and that's what I'm saying. Like the way the author of the series wrote this out, it was like, okay, so Nin is our power system, but it's the combat system, it's our power system, Nin is everything in this world. And so they do a really good job of breaking that down to the people who are consuming the series. And it's like, oh, okay, so you're using Ko for this, because Ko is like, you can block incoming attacks with Ko, but if you focus it in like a certain spot, you're leaving the rest of your body unguarded, and if you get hit with a Nin ability without having Nin up, you're either gonna die from one, or you're gonna break limbs, and so on and so forth. So it was just going in depth, going in like a lot of detail on how to be a Nin master versus, oh, you have the basics down, but there's an entire like world about Nin that you just don't know about, and they bring that to you with this. And that's how, like you said before when you mentioned Greed Island, about the Jajakin and Killua's Thunderbolt ability and different things like that. Just the whole simple fact of them And the Greed Island itself, it added another layer of like stipulations and rules. Like even though they kind of reneged on that, it was just, yeah, our cards have this certain system. You conduct battle with these cards, but you can use Nin, but you can't damage people with Nin. But then people died, so it was a whole thing. But the technicality, like you had to be tactful while you were in Greed Island because you can't just force your way through it, which was cool because normally that's what happens in arcs. You just kind of like do whatever you need to do, but it's like, no, I have certain conditions that have to be met. And I like added resistance. I like difficulty. So I was like, man, just seeing the training progress and then seeing what the fruits of the labor, because the bomber fight wasn't great, but he actually got to utilize what he had been training with for like the past couple months, which was dope to me. So like it was really rewarding for me to watch that arc.
No, like even though I have it last, it's not like I dislike the arc.
Mm-hmm.
I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the entirety of the series or the show. It's, again, I don't think the bomber, they could have found a better way to do a villain in this arc. I don't think the bomber was a good villain. I enjoyed, like you said, the training itself. It was, they explained it very well. They got to this point. I even enjoyed the part with the guy who's like using scissors to kill people or whatever, and they trained with him for like what, 2 episodes or episode and a half or whatever it was.
Yeah,
like that was an enjoyable little sequence or whatever, because it's like, yo, let's take turns, because if we do this together, then we're not really benefiting from this.
yeah.
So it was. I don't have a hate for it. I can say that. But my number one was the Chimera Ant art. Like you were saying with man, we just talked about it. Your art, your number one art, or your number two art.
Yeah,
Greed Island. Yeah, for the build up, because there was a lot of build up, and I enjoyed the build up getting there, because from, I think, episode 1, Kite was there studying those Chimera ants, and it's like, I think they have a tiering system when it comes to like monsters or whatever in the world, and I think they were like B rating.
Yeah.
And it was like, for them to get that beater, and it's like, technically they could kill us. And then you finally saw that get there. It's like, yo, they were killing humans. Like, they just had to evolve enough or eat enough to where their queen was like bigger than most people, and then she just started spouting out human-sized chimeras, and the soldiers started going, then they eventually built like their colony. And like you said, it's very structured to being normal ants, but when you mix in humans and you have human personalities, like, we're known to be defiant. We go do what we want to do because we have that free will. Like, they're no longer answering to the queen. They're like, well, I want to be queen, or I want to be king, so I'm gonna go do it. Not realizing like they didn't have that X factor of what it meant, what they needed to be king. And so they all went to go make their own colonies. And when you saw that they went to go take the colony of where the trope like came from,
yeah,
that was like probably one of my favorite parts of this arc, because you finally got to see the trope. Like, you got to see all of their abilities. You got to see Phaeton go Nova and just burn everything. I'm like, yo, I like Phaeton. I knew I liked Phaeton, but I really like Phaeton now. And it was just like, okay. And then you saw Finks charge up his arm and punch somebody to next world.
Hold on, you kind of phased out a little bit.
What's up?
Your mic cut out. Excuse me, it cut out a little bit.
Oh, sorry. I just enjoyed that you got to see everybody's like abilities from the Phantom Troop, because in your head you probably rank them, but you never got an official ranking system. And then Kilo's brother, I still think that's a girl, but Kilo's brother shows up and just like, he thought he was coming in. He's like, man, I'm finna take over and be the leader. And then sees real quick, I'm outmatched here.
Right.
And so it was just like, yeah, because even from the time we saw Kilo, it was just like, okay, like, this family is like stupid strong. You see Killua, you see Illumi. You just saw the fight between Crollo, Zeno, and Silva, and you're just like, yo, can anybody get any stronger than this? And then you see, like, you automatically thinking this family is like an apex family, and then Kilo's brother comes in and realizes, yeah, I'm trash.
Yeah, with this little paper jutsu.
Yeah. Origami jutsu, looking like chick from the the Akatsuki. I can't even think of her name. But
oh man, with the blue hair, yeah.
Yeah, I don't remember her name, but yeah, and so like you get to see how strong the Phantom Troop members are, and you, like I said, you probably rank them in some fashion in your head, even though we don't have an official ranking. But again, it's one of those other factors that make you wonder how strong Crollo really is after you see everybody fight. And like I said, they in this series they do such a good job of going back. It's like, they mentioned how in the Greed Island they found the guy that could remove Nin or cancel out Nin, and so they sent that guy to Crollo. And I thought soon we were going to get the Hisoka fight. Found out that I need to go read that chapter because it's been drawn. I just need to go read it, but I want to see it animated. But I just enjoyed the arc. I think you already mentioned about like the arc itself. It had that dark moment of eating kids, and I know it turned you off, but I'm a person like I like horror movies. So horror movies like do stuff like this all the time. Like they take you to a very, very dark place. And for this show to do that, because up to that point, there was nothing dark about this show. And then it hits you with that out of nowhere. And it's just like, yo, where do we go from here? But it reels you back in and say, no, not that dark. I just want to give you an idea of how serious you need to take this threat.
Yeah.
And so it made me happy when it was like, the first, he's not a lieutenant, the first squad captain came out and was like, yo, we're not taking children.
Yeah.
And then later on you learn it's like, oh, well, he was one of those kids he was like that first kid that was taken.
Yeah.
And his sister ended up being somewhere. And, they learn how to use Nin. And so they continue to evolve, not just as like Chimera people, but Chimera people who can use Nin. And then Pito is the first of the Royal Guards to be born. And you see how strong she really is, even after just being born. She goes and kills Kite. And even though we didn't get to see that fight, they make it look like it's a slobber knocker or slobber fest, whatever that phrase is.
Yeah.
Like she took his head, and she's just there rubbing his head. And I don't think she had Nin at that time.
Yeah, I don't think she had it either.
And so it was just like, I think that showed you like how strong the Royal Guard would be. And then it turned around, it's like, okay, just like we did with Crollo, how strong is the king going to be?
Very true.
And then you turn around, you get the next two, and I'm not gonna lie, like I think his name was Poof. When he came out, I was just like, yo, how strong is this guy really? Because I don't get it from him. Granted, I could have said the same thing about Pito, except they showed her power.
Yeah, we got to see the most of Pito because Poof was wasn't he he was the butterfly guy, right?
Yeah.
So like, and we didn't get to see much of him. Just only thing we got to see of him was just he just pandered to the king.
Right. Like he was probably the most loyal to the king. He always had that instinct of I need to get back to the king. I can't remember the big dude's name.
Man.
This is gonna kill me. Let me see if I can find it.
Yeah.
But the big dude, he was just kind of there. He didn't really have a personality. No. And but it's like, that was, his name was Yuppie. But it was like he just seemed like he was ready to fight, but at the same time you could see like he was loyal to the king. And so it was like that was like the good thing about all three, because even when Pito got knocked back and she had to use Dr. Blythe to stop her from moving, she was like, I got to get back to the king.
Yeah.
And again, you see Zeno come out with the dragon, and they take Netero and the king away, and they go at it, and Netero's winning that fight.
Yeah.
But then and then he's just, I don't know what it was. Like, there was really no turning point other than like what Gon did. He gets used to the fight. He starts to see a pattern, and he evolves in the middle of the fight. That's what the king technically did. And I think that was a good way to prove his power without showing how strong he was. Because I think the only thing they did to show how strong he was, like he like whipped his tail at one of the basic Chimera ants, and it like took their head clean off. Like, it wasn't even like he cut it in half. Like, the head just ceased to exist.
Yeah.
And then he hit Pito, and he was just like, Pito just took it, and she was like, huh, so you really are strong, because you should have been dead.
Yeah.
So, you kind of got that sense of, and you saw a mark on her face when he hit her. So it's like you kind of got that sense of everyone's power level in a sense, even though power levels are bullshit.
Yeah.
But I enjoyed the build up, and when we got there, I enjoyed the fights. Like, even seeing Gon risk his life to avenge Kite. Yeah, man. Like, I think they said that's what, like, part of what Bisky uses, except she can control it better than Gon could.
Yeah.
So, I don't know, man. That's my list. Greed Island 7, Chairman 6, Heaven's Arena 5, Zoldyck 4, Hunter Exam 3, York New City 2, Chimera Ant 1.
Dang. Yeah. So I got Election 7, Zoldyck Family 6, Hunter Exam 5, Chimera Ant 4, Heaven's Arena 3, Greed Island 2, and York New is my number 1. So, like, there y'all go. Let us know your list in the comment section down below.
And don't bash us too, list, because this is all opinionated, and
right?
I'm allowed to have an opinion.
Oh yeah. These are opinions.
Not fact, it's opinion. I'm just a guy on the internet.
Right. So just let us know. Anything else you want to say before we get out of here? I didn't think it was gonna take us this long, but
no, me neither. How long has it been out?
Yeah, it's been quite a bit of time.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Killua with that electric called Godspeed. That was just dope animation. So that's all I gotta say.
Yes. I'm trying to think. I don't think I have anything else. Oh yeah, Moral's dope with his white smoke and his shades. This man wears shades at nighttime and inside.
Because he don't want to see nothing.
Exactly. But yeah, man, if y'all enjoyed, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share this video. Go check out Lynx on his channel.
I don't make videos no more, man.
Oh, you don't make videos no more? I forgot you retired.
Yeah, I'm retired, man.
I'm
just here because this was fun. I'm just here because this was fun.
Yeah, I want all y'all to go to Lynx's channel and put it. go to his channel and let him know
those notifications.
We need you out of retirement. Put your jersey back on, Lynx.
I'm gonna become an anime tuber.
But yeah, with that being said, all the anime.
Yeah, man. Oh, anime everybody needs to go watch is Never Wonderland Ranch or something like that. Let me pull it up real quick.
Promise
Wonderland Ranch. Yeah, the Promised Wonderland. There you go.
Yeah.
Everybody needs to go watch the anime, man. It's only like 13 episodes. So
only 13 episodes.
Quick little watch, and it's enjoyable.
Exactly. You ain't doing nothing. You sitting on the couch right now.
What you doing? You sitting on the couch going. Shout out to that man.
Right?
I wonder if he still got a career.
Shoot. But yeah, man. But we gonna get out of here, y'all. Hope y'all enjoyed the video, and we will holler at y'all later with something else. Hopefully soon.
Later.
Peace.